everybody, and welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. We've got ambient noise.
A mixer going on.
A mixer, because like Tim and I just like to mix it up. That's the reason the mixer's going.
Exactly. I'm Tym Moss.
And I'm Wendy Stuart, and we're all mixed up today. But you know what? Just stay with us because we always have a lot of fun.
Work with us.
Work with us. Work with us. How are you, Tim?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Well, look at us. We're sporting these shades of blue today because
Yes,
you know it's spring, even though the temperature is supposed to plummet tomorrow, Thursday.
But enjoy today. Enjoy the now.
And
That's
we have to enjoy the here and now. I have to tell you, enjoying the now. I was in Philadelphia on Saturday.
Oh, yes.
You've probably been a lot of times, right? To Philly?
A few times.
Okay, I have to tell you something. I haven't been to Philadelphia in decades. It's so fabulous.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of fabulousness.
And the people are really nice.
Yep.
And it's not like New York when you go to pet their dog, they don't pull the dog away. That to me is the criteria of a great city. And the amount
if you could pet their dog.
you can be, and then the culture, the museums and stuff like that. It was really amazing. I was down there for a memorial of my friend's husband who passed, who actually is starting like a scholarship fund for my LGBTQ organization that I'm on the board of called TriVersity. And we'll have a fund to empower LGBTQ youth in recreation areas. So that's why, so I was down there. It was beautiful. Loved everybody. I met, oh my God, last night. So, you know, people can say what they want to say about social media. I met this person. I think we were just friends on Instagram, and I don't know how. But
I get that a lot. I have people,
you do.
Oh my God, Tym Moss.
But
we're friends on Facebook.
But you feel like you know them when you meet them in person. And this person, Matthew Marcoux, had invited me to his art show a couple of weeks ago. And Tim and I get invited to so many things. We want to split ourselves in quarters. We can't even get to. But I thought last night, you know what? I can definitely do this, and I've been wanting to see his work. And the show is called Ancient Awakening. It's Matthew Marcoux, and it's I am saying it right. It's at a space called Raoul between 21st and 22nd on 8th Avenue. The coolest thing about it is there were so many people there that have been on this show.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's like. Are we all 6 degrees of separation from If These Walls Could Talk? Khalil, who's been on the amazing author, Dan, who came with that whole Lower Eastside Festival. Dan, it was on here. And then a score of other people that it's so weird. We're all in New York, and we seem to run into the same people again and again.
Well, so, I've had a very busy week. That's why I need my phone to recap everything. Let me see. Last week I went to New York City Filmmakers Spring meetup.
That's the Wednesday thing.
Yes. With oh my goodness, I can't think of their name. The couple, Natalie and Doug.
Doug, right?
Yes, Doug Schneider. And they put this together once a month, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
I'm going to try and go next month. I am going to try and go next month.
It's so much fun, but that was really wonderful. Got to see some friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and got to hang out with Sarah. I love Sarah. We've known each other for years. It was one of those things where we were on either the same audition or did a show or a shoot or something.
I know, it all blends into one thing. Wow.
Years ago, and we've been Facebook friends and just kind of followed and encouraged each other over the years, and we ran into each other in person. It was great.
Everybody has a great time there.
And then Thursday, I went down to Joe's Pub.
Yes.
They have a monthly show there, and I don't have it listed here what the name of the show is, but it's remarkable. I think it's like the third Thursday of every month. And they have a full band and a different theme every month.
Oh, that's very cool.
And this month was honky tonk, women of country music, women of country music.
So where were the
from
performers?
Loretta Lynn? They just had a whole roster of these incredible performers that would come out and just nail these songs. It was so.
Oh
great.
My God, that is so much fun.
Oh my God, what was I think the Tanya Tucker song? Stand by Your Man.
Oh, Stand by Your Man. Who did that? Do you remember who did? I love that.
And a trans man came out and started singing it, sang the song, and it started off, sometimes I don't feel like a woman or something like that. And then
I don't feel like a woman.
Basically the song took on a whole new meaning of like, I'm a man, stand by me, stand by your man now.
I love that.
It was brilliant. It was so cool. but I highly recommend, checking that out.
Absolutely.
Let me see. Just
we've
real
got
quick.
Loose Lips coming up Thursday. We're taping.
Loose-
I'm a guest on Loose
tomorrow.
Lips. Yes,
Tomorrow
I'm
night.
excited about that.
Sunday, I went to see my dear friend Lauren O'Brien in her one-woman show at the Fringe downtown here, and she was incredible.
What is her show called? Because we're having her come on this show. Lauren's coming up on this show.
Lolo's dating show, I think, or something to that effect. Brilliant. It was raw. It was real. It was really great. And also my friend Rachel Sage, who I hadn't seen in years, since way before the pandemic, was there. So it was great to see her. Then I went out to Bay Ridge on Monday for
Eris
sketch comedy shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. Just there was other stuff in there, but those are the highlights.
And we want to make sure, if you're in New York, you buy your tickets for 50 Shades of Gay.
Yes.
May 4th. Forever young, forever youngish.
Youngish, yeah.
Nobody's getting any older.
We're celebrating all of us Tauruses for the month of May.
Right,
so,
exactly.
But also that afternoon, I'm going to be downtown at a reading called Salvation. And it's an amazing script, really intense. So if anybody's interested in going to see that, it's way down on the Lower East Side in the afternoon of the 4th. So, and then I have to pack everything up and run up to do 50 Shades of Gay. So
all right.
Talk about a mind shift.
All right. And then after 50 Shades of Gay is Night of 1,000 Stevies.
Yes.
Which is the
tribute
night to Stevie Nicks, where it sounds like what they did in Joe's Pub.
And starting it off, I think.
Dorothy Bishop, our own Dorothy Bishop, who of course has been on this show. So you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we love keeping it in the family. And keeping it in the family,
a new family member.
So we had Mindy Fracken on the show a few weeks back. She just did her
I went to her show
at Pangea.
So much fun.
Right. And we love Mindy. She is so kooky and talented and just great to be around. She has great energy. And she said, you have to have this person on. I'm connecting you with this person. So with 23 years touring his internationally acclaimed solo play, Let It Be Art, and actually it's now 24, as Howard Clerman, the elder statesman of American theater, Ronald Rand, who is our guest today, has received standing ovations from all over the world. He teaches workshops and classes as well, and he has performed in film with people like Ralph Fiennes, Angelica Houston, Yoko Ono, Richard Pryor, Christopher Plummer, just to name a few. But let me just tell you, he is loved all over the world. How many people can we say that about? He's got lots of stories to share. Please welcome Ronald Rand.
Yay.
Come on in. Freshly back from Greece.
Just a second, we got to move over a little more.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Right. How was the baklava?
Oh, it was delicious.
The baklava
and we're cozy. How
Yes,
are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good. I'm wonderful. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
so
really.
much for having
Welcome
me here.
back for being here today.
Yeah, didn't you just like get off the plane
I
from
just
Greece?
did, and my arms are tired.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I tell you, no, Greece is unbelievable.
I haven't been to Greece. Tell me all about it.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is my 3rd trip there.
And to be there and work.
Joy.
Yeah, the joy of being
especially to be able to teach with young people and also to do your show. And it's so much fun. And this time for the first 2 years, I was in Athens at the International Festival of Making Theater. But this time I went out to the Peloponnese. So
where is that?
Yes, that's the separate area that goes further out of Greece. And that's where you find Patras. And that's where I went, to the University of Patras.
Wow.
And it was extraordinary.
No, so is that inland or?
It's really on the coast, on the
coastline.
Yeah, they have this amazing bridge that takes you over to the mainland. And you have to cross this bridge to get to the Peloponnese, because they've actually created a canal which was built 100 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And it's amazing to look down and see it. And then you're on your way to the Peloponnese. And when I got there.
And there you were, University of Patras.
I was there.
My first question, of course, is, did you have to speak Greek, or everyone speaks?
No.
It's all Greek to me. That was a low blow. I had to throw that in.
And it was to me as well. I tell you.
Did they know what you were saying?
Yes, they do. They speak a lot of English there. They love Americans, and it was so much fun being there because I was sent over by the State Department through the Fulbright program.
I love that.
And I was there for 6 weeks teaching.
You're like an ambassador.
Well, I've been a Goodwill Cultural Ambassador now for 24 years, and it's been an
Wow.
extraordinary journey. I've been to 26 countries around the world.
Now, is this part of your ambassadorship?
Well, it's part of what I do.
Okay.
I've been traveling around the world for 24 years, going to all these countries,
Right.
because it's a chance to share what is our humanity.
Right.
I agree. That's what art is.
What brings us together as
Yes.
human beings. And because I'm able to do it through my workshop, The Art of Transformation, and I'm also able to do it through Let It Be Art. And it's all about what Let It Be Art is all about is Harold Clurman. And Harold Clurman is all about uplifting human beings. And his passion just takes people on another planet.
I think what I'm so impressed with is you've taken a show and turned it into an international thing that has gone on for 24 years.
Wow.
Because you know what? The thing we talk about, and we talk about it a lot here, so many things are one-shot wonders, right? You raise the money to do the thing. You find the venue to do the thing. The thing, if you're lucky, has a couple of weeks run, and then it's done. How did you create the longevity that you did?
Well, I did the show 3 times to critical acclaim off Broadway, and it went very, very well at the Century Center down here in this area, Century Center of Performing Arts, and up on the Upper West Side. And then it was produced by the Mirror Repertory Company. And at one point in time, I looked around and I saw that Harold Clurman was, of course, the elder statesman in the American theater. He also traveled around the world, and he directed in London and in Japan.
Yeah, international.
International in Israel. And so I said, I mean, his ideas are not only eternal, but they're universal. And so I said, how can I share these? So I saw there was an international festival in Georgia, in Tbilisi. But I knew it was going to cost a couple of $1,000s. So I said, well, how am I going to get there? So I put it out to the universe, which I do a lot. And I said,
welcome to the Universe Club. You're in the right spot, Ronald.
I said, okay, this is going to happen. So at the end of a performance, a woman came up to me and she said, I loved what you're doing. It's magnificent. How can I help? And I said, well, I'm thinking I would like to go to Georgia, to Tbilisi, to do my show.
To produce the whole thing.
So what's it going to cost? I said, well, probably close to $2,000. And she wrote a check out.
Oh my God, I love
that. Okay, that's like major. That's like when something happens like that is like dialing it in.
It really is.
Wow.
And that's the way it happened. And after that, I said, okay, world, where do you want me to go? And then I started going to all of these international theater festivals.
I'm going home and doing this tonight.
Yeah.
I know it is a great story.
What do you feel about the show makes, like, what are some of the things that make it so universal?
Well, it was so extraordinary when I was just here in Greece at Patras, performing at the Lithographian Theater. And the beautiful thing about the teachers, the professors at the University of Patras, and all of the community is that they really supported art, and they loved working together. It was a great collaboration. And when I did my show, they, of course, audiences don't really know that much about Harold Clurman, but once they meet him, his passion, I mean, I was fortunate to study with him, and I just got out of high school. His passion is infectious. He's like a dynamo, like a 150-foot, a mile an hour hurricane coming straight at you, and you just are like, okay,
gobsmacked.
Jump aboard.
So in the show, you portray Harold.
Well, I actually embody him.
Okay.
I go through a 2.5-hour transformation.
I saw what you look like in it. You don't like,
well,
nothing like who you are.
Well, he's almost 80 years old, and of course I'm not. And so what I teach is what I do. And in what we call the dressing room, to me, it's actually a creation room. It's where creation takes place. And so I go in there, and of course I allow myself to become an open vessel. Right. And I allow myself to be filled by his spirit. And sometime during the transformation, when I'm putting on my makeup and I lay out all of his clothing, because actually, as human beings, we don't wear costumes, we wear clothing.
Right.
So all his clothing is there. And at some point in time, he literally comes and enters me.
Well, you're channeling his spirit. That's something I know a lot about, but I never heard an actor say that before.
And you're also giving permission.
Yes.
To the spirit to enter.
And then he comes, and then he gets dressed, and then he leaves the creation room, and he doesn't go on stage. He he goes into his apartment and he lives and he's talking to his students.
In his apartment.
I love that.
And then he's living there, and I never know what he's going to say. I hope he says the words. I'm just along for the ride inside. And of course, I have to breathe for him.
But you're channeling him.
That's amazing.
Tim is actors become characters, and they're this brilliant at it. So many.
Yes.
This is a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a whole other level.
I have not had anyone, and I know this can be done because I've studied traditional African medicine, like voodoo, and I've seen people been taken by the spirit.
Yes.
So this is incredible.
Well, it's like a state of immersion. I mean, I studied not only with Stella Adler for 6 years, but with Harold Clurman, and then with Grotowski, the great Polish director, and he was very much into immersion. And I've, in a sense, because Uta Hagen, one of the great acting teachers, said it takes 20 years to learn how to act and 20 years to learn how not to act. So you get to the point where you're not acting and you're living on the stage.
You're living
you allow the person to live, and you are there, of course, supplying their body and the voice and everything and the energy, but they have a right to live. And so when he's living, and of course during this performance, all right above me, and Katerina Umare was so wonderful. She put up the Greek subtitles, and so everybody was able to understand.
That's great. Right.
And in many countries, I've had subtitles, and of course, one time down in Barrancabermeja in Colombia, the wall was too far away, and they couldn't put up Spanish subtitles.
They couldn't
see it. So what happened was they had to put someone on stage during the performance who actually spoke in Spanish, and I had to
translate.
I had to tell Harold Clurman in the creation room, there's going to be someone in your apartment. They're going to be speaking Spanish. You're going to have to wait every 2 sentences.
Oh my goodness!
And it was amazing to see what he did, because during the performance, he actually, of course, was living. So he continued to write his essay. He continued to look for his matches for a cigar.
As he would in life.
Right. He was living, and so.
But now when did
amazing.
Harold Clurman pass away?
He left us in 1979 and in 1980. He was 79 years old, and so he's still with us.
Because of you.
Well, I'm very blessed. I mean, truly, and it's been the same every country that I've traveled with, all over the world. People have just felt the same way, and a lot of people have come up to me. Like just in Greece, a woman came up to me and she said, I don't know how to express how I feel, but I mean, I've never felt this way in the theater, and I've never met anybody like Clurman, and I just am trying to handle what just happened.
Ronald, he chose you as a vessel to bring himself back.
I've been very blessed.
But again, what do you think it is about the show, the content of the show, that makes her feel that, or makes people feel that? I understand
the intensity of it.
Well, it's also,
but is it about his life, his experiences?
Well, you also during the performance, I also bring, in a sense, to life Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, Stanislavski, Aaron Copland, many people in the show. But what Harold Clurman expounds about is what we need to hear more about. How to let ourselves be everything we can be.
Yes,
live life
agree.
completely. And also he takes us on a whole journey of not only the group theater, but his whole life. And of course, we travel to Russia, we travel to London, we travel to the Lower East Side. But he's also a man of common sense and great humor.
Right.
And that's the best ingredients. And that's so much fun.
Now, because you mentioned like Russia, like the Russian audience, how did they receive his passion? And because they might be a little more restricted as far as how they can show themselves.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I did the show twice in Russia, in Vologda, and then down in Chelyabinsk, all the way in the south. And when it came to the point of Stanislavski, and he's talking about Stalin, I had questioned myself whether or not I should even keep it in the show, but they absolutely loved it. And they couldn't get over it, and they've embraced me, and they loved it. And this is the way it's been in every country I've been.
I love that.
But you've been doing this for 24 years.
Yes, and I'll be doing it the rest of my life.
Another 24.
So you started with a script originally.
Well, the way that I did it is I actually created a full-length play about the group theater that I worked on for about 20 years. And when I did many presentations, staged readings and staged productions at like the Actors Studio and the Stella Adler Studio, I brought Harold Clurman to life as a young man. But then someone came up to me at the end and he said, you know, you really should think about maybe doing a solo show. And I thought, no, I don't know if I really could. And so I wrote to Stella Adler and I said, what about
Stella, what do you
Yeah.
think?
And she said to me, no, darling, nobody can play Harold Clurman. And then at the bottom, P.S. But if you have to, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's
It gave me
classic.
permission. But then, of course, I looked at my notes and I read every book that Harold wrote. And he wrote some of the most important books in the theater on directing in the fervent years. And I said, okay, this is all good, but what do I do? And I said, okay, Harold, I'm going to listen to you. And I just listened. And he told me what he wanted to say.
An amazing story.
Yeah, and that's how it's been, and it's continuing. And now I've been invited back to Greece in October for a big,
I know.
educational conference. And now I've got theaters down in Louisiana, North Carolina.
Yeah, everyone's knocking at your
No,
door.
Well, thank you. From
Tell
your
us
lips
about
to
the
God's ears.
tell us about the educational
aspect of it.
Sure. Well, I've
Isn't
been
there an organization that you're involved with?
Well, I'm through working this way. I've been awarded 4 Fulbrights through the Fulbright program, which is wonderful.
So great.
And it's one of the greatest organizations to be a part of because they fund pretty much everything that you do.
Nice.
And so I've been to Malaysia for 6 weeks, to Paysandú in Uruguay for 5 weeks, and then I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina. To the
I
Academy
saw
of Dramatic
that.
Arts for 6 weeks. Sarajevo. And then on top of it, not only do you get to teach at the university, which is the most extraordinary experience, like I did at the University of Patras.
So this is in addition to your performing there. You also
you do the show and then you do the workshops with the students.
Well,
wonderful.
Yeah,
really.
Package.
Yeah,
it's
it's a great
amazing. And then on top of it, at the same time, when I was in Sarajevo, I was invited by the artistic director of one of the most prestigious theaters in Bosnia, Chamber Theater 55. And he wanted me to direct an American comedy. So I directed Love by Murray
That was the one that you directed.
That I also acted in. And so I directed it, and it ran for 8 years with 3 of the most extraordinary actors of Bosnia, including Zania Marjanovic, one of the, she's an international film star. Everybody, of course, it was in Bosnian, but everybody loved it, and it was hysterical.
Brought it there.
Yes,
You're the one,
and it was so much fun. But now, when I was in Paysandú in Uruguay, I actually directed a workshop production of Our Town in Spanish.
Oh wow!
And Our Town is such an American show.
Yeah, they loved it.
How did it translate there?
Because it was about a small town, and Paysandú was
like
about
a village,
small village.
And they
I love it. What a great translation.
Oh my God! So that's interesting that it does translate into different countries.
Oh, it does.
But isn't it amazing how, again, you've really experienced a lot of the world and a lot of different cultures, and there's a commonality.
Oh yes.
That the people in Uruguay, Russia, and Herzegovina, and there's a common humanity
because you just cross cultures.
Oh,
and that's what people forget. And at the Explorers Club, I give tours there, and I'm a member. And one of the things I tell people when I show them people from traditional backgrounds, indigenous people, look at their faces. We're all the same at the end of the day. Maybe we dress different, maybe our rituals are different, or our customs. We are all human beings, and that's why you're an ambassador, because that's what you share.
Thank you. Well, it's amazing.
So proud of you.
So appreciated. Well, it's been an incredible blessing when I've been in countries like Belarus or Zimbabwe.
From Belarus to Zimbabwe. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and then I was just in Sri Lanka, Kenya, and Iceland. And so that was pretty extraordinary too.
But the contrast between the places.
It's been amazing. Yeah.
Do you find that when you go into a new country like that, or a completely different country, that you have to adjust, or?
Well, no, actually, everybody is so open to receiving me, and I'm so happy to be there that it becomes like an immediate collaborative love fest, and we are immediately right into it.
Do you think though, because it's the arts, you're there for the arts?
Yes,
it brings it right in. It draws those people.
Like you said, art is humanity.
Right.
It awakens our humanity.
Absolutely.
Which is what all humans have in common.
And I teach the art of transformation, and that's what I taught to the students at the University of Patras and everywhere. It's a master workshop because my book that I just came out with, called Solo Transformation on Stage, all about how to create your own stage, performance on stage, but also how to transform yourself in real life. Every single day
So-
we do.
I'm
Yes,
going
right,
to
that's
ask
right.
you just to simplify, because you have a whole book, but simplify. For example, how do we transform ourselves in our day-to-day life?
Well, the minute that you open your eyes up because you've been dreaming, the
Mhm.
minute you wake up, it's a new day. So
Mhm.
immediately it's different than the day before. This
Right.
is the moment. So the clothes you're going to put on are completely different, probably, than the
Right.
ones you wore yesterday. Your
You
hair,
would hope.
your hair may be different. You know, the lipstick, you may change your nail polish, you change your earring. Everything changes, and you look in the mirror and you're a different you.
And
But you're not the same you.
Uh-huh.
And because the day is going to be different.
Yes.
So now you have to prepare yourself and transform yourself for what's going to happen today.
I love
Which
that.
means
I
you have
love
to
that.
be then in the moment.
Right.
Absolutely.
Live in the now.
Absolutely
Live
in
the
the
now.
in the moment. And that's
Yeah.
what we forget. Our brains fast forward ahead
Well,
or
actually,
go behind.
I just came from therapy literally a couple hours ago,
in the moment.
talking about this.
Are you
talking about
kidding?
this same
Right.
thing. Yeah.
Yes, it's exactly what I
Just
teach in
how I've got,
class.
because I'm still carrying some crud
Oh.
from childhood,
Uh-huh.
from like
Yeah,
parents,
well, we
and
all do,
from
Tim.
people that have kind of set the rules inside of me, and they no longer apply.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out how to just release them and allow me to
Right.
emerge. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
and so it's kind of the same thing as far as like a transformation
yes.
from
And-
within.
And of course, when you're on stage, it's a complete transformation
Yes,
because you
yes.
have to live in an imaginary
Mhm.
given circumstances.
Right,
So
right.
everything is not real. And of course, it is real because
But
you
it
have to
is
tell the
Right,
real
truth.
because
right.
you're in that moment.
You're in that moment
that reality.
as that human being.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and you
I
have
love
to live
this.
their life. So
Yeah.
you have to be completely present as who they are and let
But
them live.
oddly enough, sometimes it's easier for me to act on stage than it is to be me.
There's a
Because
lot,
there's
lot of
already-
people that have said
Because
that.
there's
Tim.
already a script written, and I
Uh-huh,
know what's going to happen.
Well, that's the joy of performing. Yes, you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And it's the same in life. You never know
It
what's
is
gonna
the same. It is the exact same
Yes,
in
yes.
life.
It's
The subject matter is so fascinating to me. The whole transformation
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
and the here and now and what you've been doing
Yes.
for 24 years.
Thank you.
Such a complete transformation.
Mhm.
You know, other than people I know that get possessed by deities, you're the first person I've spoken to that is able to do that in their real life. And I have to believe that Harold Clurman is up there and with you. Now, when you're in your so you're in now your Ronald Rand self
I
with
think so.
Wendy and Tim. But do you ever find when you're in your Ronald Rand self walking down the street that Harold reaches out to you or tells you something?
No, pretty much. I mean, I talk to Harold Clurman or Stella or different people,
Mhm.
but I never know, when things will occur to me. But pretty much, I'm in this reality as me. But I'll tell you, honestly, my opera, Ibsen, which is the first opera ever.
Your
written about
libretto, Ibsen's
my
Ghost,
libretto. That came to me in my dreams, and I tell all my students, write down your
Yeah, you
dreams
should.
because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I heard these
It's
voices.
communication. Yeah.
And these voices came to me and I wrote them down. And lo and behold, I looked at them and it was Ibsen talking to his wife. And then 3 weeks later, it's Ibsen talking to Hedda. And then 2 weeks later, in a dream, I write down it's Ibsen talking to Noor. And I'm going, what is this? And then I went to India and I had all of these dialogues that came through me in the middle of the night in my dreams. And an artistic director, Jill Navarre, down in Oroville at a theater, said to me, this is not a play. This is not a poem. This is actually an opera. And you're going to have to learn how to write a libretto. I said, are you kidding me? And so it took me 8 months to learn how to write a libretto.
Wow.
And then she said, there's a composer who lives here. He's
Oh, of
German.
course,
You're
there's
going-
one right.
Yeah,
right over there.
That's
So you're
right.
going
It's
to
next door.
collaborate with him. And so 10 years later, we finished the opera, and lo and behold, it's the first opera and of course, Ibsen, he's come now through me for some reason, but definitely to say things that need to be heard today that we're not listening to.
Right.
Because he's at the end of his life and he's really questioning, why did I do what I did?
Right.
Did it make any difference?
Right.
And
Right.
it feels like he didn't make any difference
Uh-huh.
because people don't change.
Right.
So So this opera, we now have a very, very important director, very interested
It all came on
creating
board.
the world
Wonderful.
premiere. It's been under consideration by several opera companies around the
That's
world.
so great.
So this is what happens.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
I know, it's
Now,
just really
Ibsen's
quite
Ghost.
amazing. Yeah, Ibsen's Ghost.
Well, I have to
Ibsen's-
think of spirit.
Ibsen's Ghost
Yes.
was, I just went and saw
Charles
Ibsen's Ghost.
Bush,
or
we did.
Oh,
We did.
oh,
Yeah,
Charles
he
Bush
just
has
did
a
it.
show
Yeah.
called
Oh, that's
Ibsen's
right.
Ghost.
He
Yes,
did
he
it
does.
as a farce.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but you keep mentioning Ibsen's
I
Ghost,
know,
and I
it's
keep
like-
like, wait, Charles
I know,
Bush, wait, what?
yeah.
Well, this is a little different because this is an
Right.
opera.
But
It's an
I
opera.
love that. That's
Yes.
amazing. I
Thank
love how you're so in tune and open to receive.
You have
Right.
to do. Yes.
Absolutely.
Very
That's very
important.
important.
What
right?
tips would you give people? Oh my God, I'm being so selfish. What would you tell me and Tim? Because I want to be open to, I'm at the stage, I want to be open to receive things. And I think there's stuff stopping things
But
from
there's-
getting through.
Yeah.
So what exercises or what do you tell people?
Well, it's all about consciousness. It's
Right.
all about awareness, being, where you put your energy, focus.
Mhm.
If you decide to focus inside, then you begin to connect with yourself. If you begin to focus outside, you let the world come to you and let the world speak to you. And I
Mm.
think that it's so important to be open to the world. But
Mhm.
you also, a lot of people have filters. We wear masks every day.
Yes, we do.
But
right?
how do we let them down and let ourself out? But there's moments where you can actually calm yourself down, and you have to, because then you can hear things
Mhm.
that you need to hear.
Right.
You can also come to a peace inside yourself, and all of a sudden
Absolutely.
you begin to realize, okay, this is the moment. I can
Mhm.
live now.
Do you
right
use
now.
breath work to calm yourself down?
Breath is very, very important. I also know that we have three minds. We have the machine up here. We
Uh-huh.
have the heart brain,
Absolutely.
and then we have the gut brain. And the
Uh-huh.
gut
Right.
brain runs about 85-90% of our bodies.
Mhm.
So every day we listen to our gut. It tells us how we feel. It tells us how
Yeah.
we don't feel.
Right.
It reminds us, but actually we are doing things because this is shooting messages up to this, because this is then shooting signals down to do this. And so it's all connected. And
Mhm.
if you realize that, you say, okay, I relax. You're in charge.
and just
you
allow it.
allow it
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
the hardest thing,
Yeah.
as opposed to making it happen.
Yeah, but I'm also
allowing to.
But
happen.
I'm also a believer like Louise Hay and a lot of
Oh, yeah,
other
of
these
course,
people
of
who
course.
say, don't go to the negative thought. It's not so hard. Go to the
Yes.
Yeah.
nice thought of saying, okay, it can happen.
It can
Right.
happen.
I
right.
accept it. So it's a
Uh-huh.
matter of accepting it. And it's the same thing with allowing Harold Clurman to come and
Right.
be
Yeah, right.
present,
Of course,
so
of
that he
course.
comes and says what he has to say.
Of
Mhm.
course.
And so it's about the same thing of accepting everyone in the universe as part of who I am, because we are all one.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's why I go out to the planet and share what I do.
And you have proven that we are all one, that
Yeah.
we are all the same, no matter what part of the planet we
Yes.
were born on.
Yeah, and the ideas that he says that come through me, and then of course the ones that I learned from Stella Adler, because she was such
Mhm.
an incredible hoot, as well as one of the most extraordinary acting
Oh, of
teachers
course.
of all time. But being with her, she not only raised us and told us about the nobility of the actor, but
Mhm.
of the human being. And she said, you have to be a human being first, and you have to allow yourself to accept all of everything that's come before you, because it's all part of you.
Mhm.
And that comes
Mhm.
through you. And of course, all the people who've come before you are on your shoulders.
Mhm.
That's
and
what
you
they say.
accept
Yeah,
that.
right. That genetically we are our ancestry.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That is
Yeah.
who we are genetically.
And I talk about that in my book.
You do.
Solo
Mhm.
Transformation.
I just started
Now,
reading
Tell
about
us,
that.
yeah, now
Wow.
tell us about
Yeah.
your book, Solo
Well,
Transformation.
Solo Transformation on Stage is really about not only creating your own solo show and what it takes to do that, but
Mhm.
also how to open yourself to be, like you said, a channel, but really being open enough to understand the world. Because when I was about, maybe 19 or 20, I was studying at NYU,
Mhm.
and I said to myself, am
we
I
have,
really?
we have water for you. if
Oh,
want
thank
some
you.
water,
Am I
yeah.
really going
Bring-
to understand? Oh, thank you. Am I
See, that
really
was good.
going to? Amazing.
We,
Wow.
I
we just
manifested it.
conjured that up just
Magic.
now. The water we needed, it was
Manifested
there.
I love it. I love it.
So-
So I said to myself, I'm going to need to know more about the world. So I set a task for myself for the next 6 years. I was going to read all of the major books on religion, all of the greatest books ever written in every major country by every great writer, every great play that has been written, every poet, all of their great work. And it took me a long time. But I said, I need to understand what people think, how the rest of the world thinks.
Wow.
And so it opened me
and
up.
once again, did you find commonality between most of the religions? Because that was one thing I was helping a friend years ago on a documentary that he was shooting, and he had the same questions for, I think it was 5 different religious leaders of different religions.
Right.
And every one of them, the answers were almost word for word exactly the same. So everybody is basically, that really opened my eyes, that everybody is basically teaching the same thing overall. I mean, but just different roadmaps on how to get there.
Yes. It's true. I mean, love makes the world go around, and we all seek peace and love. And I mean, that's the basics. And that's why I go out and also through my book, Solo Transformation on Stage, I talk about you've got to have that passion and that love inside you. And what is the story that you need to tell, must tell, because that's the engine that's going to drive it. But then who are you speaking to? You're speaking
to.
They want love, and they want to be open up as well. And so it becomes this love fest. And that's what it's all about.
And this is, and you've proved it everywhere you go in the world. It doesn't matter that they have to translate it. They love it. Well, isn't that incredible?
It's been a blessing. And I also teach what I call the method of physical actions, a physical chart that Stanislavski created at the end of his life. And I use that as a guide for all of the students, but not necessarily in my workshops. I have actors. When I was in Morocco, I had a workshop with taxi drivers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, all people.
You did it wow.
And I still teach the basics of, because the number one on the chart, because Stanislavski created this chart at the end of his life, gave it to Stella Adler. She brought it back to the group theater. Everybody began to look at it. But number one on it says, work on oneself. This is what we have to do every single day. Physically, emotionally. How do we release ourselves to enjoy life more and then let more life in? Because we've got to keep giving light to the world. That's what it's
Well, those of us who understand that, who are highly evolved. That's what, I mean, that is the terminology. Highly evolved. I've had those discussions with people. I totally love the wavelength you're on.
I do too. You
know, this is what we're totally about on this show.
Now, I believe we have a video.
We have a,
of the wonderful Ronald Rand. So let's take a look.
As Harold Clurman. And now knowing the backstory, this has so much meaning.
Absolutely.
You know?
Well,
I am Stella and I on our way home. And it's just by chance. We stop off in Paris. We have the unbelievably good fortune of finding out Stanislavski's also in town. Well, I tell Stella we've got to meet him. An appointment's arranged. Well, when we arrive, he sees Stella with me, and he rises to this great height. He must have been 6'4", regally handsome with beautiful snow white hair, has a throaty, deep baritone of a voice, has a decided appeal for Stella because her father had also been majestically tall with beautiful white hair. Ah, he says, the daughter of Jacob Adler has come to see me. I look at Stella. She just stands there. Go over, shake his hand. No, I mustn't. Finally, Stanislavski introduces himself with a bow. Young lady, everyone has spoken, but you. Still nothing. I swear you could have heard a pin drop. Finally, Stella blurts out, Mr. Stanislavski, before I studied your system, I loved the theater. Now I hate it. I want to melt in the ground right then and there, but all Stanislavski does is blink, and very calmly he says, well, my dear, if it's not working for you, forget it. Which made a lot of sense to me. Well, when I get the chance, and I know it's probably a practice of me, I ask him about his relationship with Stalin. He looks around for a moment. Very quietly he says, "He's not stupid." He looks around again. Almost in a whisper he adds, "There are things going on." Then he doesn't say anything else. The last thing I hear him say impresses me the most. After all my years of studying and working in the theater, I've come to the conclusion that I know nothing about it. Which meant to me that no matter how many attempts to seize the essence of an art, it always remains mysterious. One thing's for certain, we get back, the summer's going to be a doozy. Well, as soon as we arrive back, all the actors assemble in front of Estella. She very bluntly announces, "Everything everyone's been doing is wrong." Naturally, the ground shakes, the bungalows bounce, everyone's conveniently in uproar. Stanislavski no longer determines that we study the play by studying our past. He now determines we must study the given circumstances of the play and justify everything we do. Well, Strasberg, upon hearing this, I don't care what he says, he's gone back on himself. Stella, I deny what he's told me. Strasberg screams, "I never said I teach the Stanislavski system. I teach what I teach." So Stella taught what you taught. And frankly, that's all anyone can do. You can have a million techniques up the wazoo. Ultimately, it comes down to what you believe. You have to decide for yourself what's valuable. Because in the long run, you're judged by how well you contribute to everyone's human needs, everyone's moral concerns. And if you want to know what the theater is like today, I'll tell you. It's mediocre. It has been for a while. Why? It's because people in the theater are afraid to move this way or that way. They're afraid to progress. They're afraid to be wrong. They're afraid to take a chance. They're afraid to have courage.
Wow.
Yes, bravo.
Bravo. So, how has this
Wow.
piece evolved from when you started it? And it's scripted, or now
Oh yeah.
the whole from the
Yeah.
whole thing from the get-go?
Well, originally when I did the play 24 years ago when it opened off Broadway, it was an hour and a half, and it was a different animal because at
It was
that
a different
point
animal.
I hadn't actually discovered how to allow Harold Clurman to totally enter me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a process over the years that at some point in time, all of a sudden, I realized he had to come, and he came.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, and this was after about 2 or 3 years, ever since then, every time I come into the creation room, he does come, and I'm very grateful. And he does go into his apartment, and he does
Mm-hmm.
live. And this is what happens. And then when he leaves and goes off to the theater, and I tell all my students, you have to know where you're coming from. You have to know and allow the human being to live there and do what they have
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah.
And then they're going somewhere because it's a whole one continuum. And so once he leaves his apartment, I return for what we call the curtain call.
Uh-huh.
And of course,
Nice.
what I always do is I always have a question and answer period.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But I
Yeah.
always come out and I always do a short speech of about 3 or 4 sentences in the language of the country,
Oh,
phonetically.
wow.
So I just spoke
Wow.
Greek. And
Oh
then
my God.
if was in Zimbabwe, I spoke, or South Africa, I
Just,
spoke
you have it
Zulu.
written out.
I have it all written out phonetically.
You spoke
Wow.
Zulu
I
from
spoke-
Greek to Zulu.
Yeah, I spoke
My
I
God.
spoke Tamil in Sri Lanka. I spoke
Oh,
Icelandic
wow.
in Iceland.
I love that.
speak all
That
the
really
languages.
connects with the people.
Oh,
too.
God,
Yeah.
Yes, and it's very, very important that we do that.
I
We have to extend that, and so Harold Clurman, once he leaves, I return, and so I'm there, and so and then I go out and shake hands with every single person in the audience.
Nice.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is really amazing. Now, people that knew Harold Clurman, when they see you do this, what is their reaction?
Well, I've been amazed. I mean, of course, several aren't with us anymore, like Elaine Stritt. Elaine Stritt, she just was blown away by it and said, my God, you're Harold. And Roy Scheider felt the same way. And Rue McClanahan came and said, who studied, a lot of these people studied with Harold Clurman, because he not only was one of the greatest, certainly the greatest drama critic, I feel, we've ever had in America, one of the greatest directors of the 20th century. And he was called the conscience of the American theater for 50 years because he encompassed so many aspects of the theater. And he was also one of our most important acting teachers, because as a director, he would teach midnight classes from midnight till 4 a.m. So who was in his classes? Kim Stanley, Eli Wallach, Jan Jackson, Hal Holbrook, Roy Scheider, so many of the most important actors. So they were all influenced by Marlon Brando. Of course, he cast Marlon in his first adult part in Truckline Cafe. But as he says in the show, the play was a flop. But of course, he turned out to be, this incredible actor. And he said to him, of course, when I become nobody, you're going to have to support me. It's so funny, naturally. But and he did this incredible. One of the things that happens during the show, of course, directing Brando, is that Brando, as he says, couldn't be heard beyond the fifth row. Right. And he had talked so quietly. So at one point he did this exercise. He said, go climb that rope. And Brando was like, climb it and shout your lines. And so he says, go up, shout, keep shouting, climb higher, higher. And then the actors come out, and then Brando comes down and he looks at him like he's ready to kill me. And then he says, okay, now say the lines normally. And of course, during the performance, he did exactly what he raised it all, and of course went on to become one of our greatest actors. But I have to tell you a very funny story. That was a great one, by the way. The story was like, I figured you'd be fun. That was great. Well, when I was studying with Stella, of course, I had the joy to study with Stella. One of my classmates was Bill Paxton, that I wrote a lot of scenes and did a lot of work with. And of course, one of the exercises we did was the same exercise that she did when Brando was in the classes before me. And she had us run around like chickens. And of course, we all went, we're running around like actual chickens. We became chickens. But when Marlon Brando did it, he went in the corner and he laid an egg. Yeah. And Stella said to him, Marlon, why are you in the corner? There's a bomb falling. What's the matter? What are you doing? And of course, that's what she said. There's a bomb falling. Run around. Everyone's running like a chicken. And of course, he's sitting there doing nothing. And so he says to her, "But a chicken doesn't know what a bomb is." Laying an egg. That's so true. That's what a chicken does. So that's the logic of being an actor. Yes, is that you have to follow the logic of that human being. Do you feel like what is available academically, theatrically now in terms of the teachers that we have? Do you feel it falls short of the greats? No, I never feel that way, because this is a new generation. This is a new time. Yeah. And it's evolving. It's evolving, right? It's always evolving. And we have to roll with it, because what was happening 20 years ago, 50 years ago, this is not the same world. So that is exactly, the stage picture has changed. Yes, and it has, but you still have to learn the craft, and you still have to learn the art of collaboration, because you have to work with other actors. You have to have respect. You have to have a work ethic.
Well, you have to have
discipline.
Trust of each other.
And you have to tell the truth, and you have to learn how to do that. So no matter what medium, and I've worked in all the mediums, you learn your craft, but then you have to learn the craft of working in front of a camera. If you're going to do television, then you have to learn the craft of working. If you're going to work in film, that's a different medium. Or you're going to do commercials or reality television, which didn't exist when we were talking about Stanislavski and Harold Clurman. That form didn't exist. It just seems like, though, a lot of forms of entertainment now have lost the quality. Well, it's all different. People want different things. So if some people want this, then some people will give them that. If I want to say, you should be raised a little bit, come and listen to Harold Clurman's ideas. he will take you on a different plane.
Right.
People who come and experience say, God, I've never met anybody. I mean, not only does he come out in his gorgeous suit and his cape and his fedora and everything, I mean, they've never met anybody that is this explosive and passionate about the theater.
Right.
I mean, people are passionate about TV and movies and you know, other things, but he believed that through theater, we can change the world. And he did it through the group theater. And I try in my own way, but we can't change people. But what we can invite them to look at themselves a little differently.
Right.
You know?
That is exactly right. Yeah.
And it's so important to do that. And that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. But I've done so many, you know, I've done hundreds of movies and TV shows over my career.
I mean, the people,
I want to just kind of get a few
Go
here.
for it, Tim.
We've got Garden State with Natalie Portman.
Yes.
Kevin Kline in The Emperor's Club. Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise.
I worked with Tom as well. That was a lot of fun.
The Royal Tenenbaums. Now this is a list. Bill Murray, Danny Glover, Gene Hackman, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelica Houston.
Only with Bill Murray.
But still, and then Ben Stiller, Luke Wilson. But it's still you're associated. You're in the realm with all of these people.
Yes.
And there's more there. Kevin Kline and In and Out.
I worked
the Jerky Boys.
Yes.
Will Smith in 6 Degrees of Separation with Tucker Channing. Joe Pesci in The Super. Michael J. Fox and James Wood in The Hard Way.
Well, I did actually a scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh my God!
That was way before he became Philip Seymour Hoffman.
But you could tell.
And he was on the gurney, and I was a paramedic, and we spent about an hour talking together because he was still trying to work himself up to decide whether or not he was really going to choose this as his career.
Go into acting.
And he was getting some roles, and we had a really great time talking.
Interesting.
So it was before everything happened. And it was that way, the same way that I was with Ray Fiennes and Paul Schofield, with Robert Redford directing me in Quiz Show. I was on the set with Rafe, and we were setting up, and it was so great working with Bob Redford because he was such an incredible, calm, joyous human being. But I was on the set with Rafe, and he said, you know, I just finished this movie in Europe, and it was an interesting movie because it was all about the Holocaust, and I don't know if anything's going to come of it. And I said, what was it called? It was called, well, I think it was something about Schindler's List. That was
just like a throwaway.
I wonder if it's
we'll see what happens
because again, once you make these movies, you never know
you're
what's going to happen.
You're right, Tim. Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Wow.
So that's been the experience. And then also when I worked, I got called to. I had a part in a film, and they called me up and they said, "You're going to have to get to the set at midnight, but we can't tell you who's in it. But this is your part. You come down the street and you have to give $1 to someone, and it's a homeless person, and then you just go on your way." And I said, "There's no rehearsal or nothing. Just do your action." I said, "Okay." So they brought me to the set. I got there. I was in the trailer. I said, "Okay, this is what they want." So I'm on the corner, and the first AD says, "Okay, go." And I went down the street, and all of a sudden I come to the corner. There's the homeless person. I give the $1, and it's Yoko Ono.
No,
that's the Yoko Ono role. I was going to ask you.
Oh my God, that's great.
That's really. How did you contain yourself?
I didn't have to because she was a homeless person, and I tried to give her the money, and her business was
what was her business? She didn't want the money.
I thought, well, you're homeless. And she went, and I said, okay, well, I can't give her the money, and I just went on my way, and I went, oh, that was Yoko Ono.
What just happened? That was Yoko Ono.
So it was very surreal. This is the way life has been.
And this business. It's so interesting.
So you never know.
What incredible stories. What did you do with Eric Roberts?
Well, I played Richard Nixon.
On here.
I actually was in the chair, you might say, for 4.5 hours, being made up to become an 85 or 83-year-old Richard Nixon.
Oh, wow.
And because when I was growing up in Florida, where I'm from, I used to do stand-up on Miami Beach, and I did routines. And one of my biggest thing was impressions, because you see now, one of my best
was Jimmy
Jimmy
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah. So I did him a lot. Yeah. And of course I did Nixon too.
Right, there wasn't that big a difference from
Let's
Jimmy
make
Stewart
it
to
perfectly
Nixon.
clear. I am the president.
So, of course, when there was a big audition for this big role as Richard Nixon in this film, Rude Awakening, I thought, well, do I have a shot? And then it said, he's got to be in his 80s. And I went, okay, I don't have a shot. So I went to a makeup artist. He happened to be an Academy Award winning makeup artist. And I said, can you do something? And he put on the whole mask.
Prosthetic, yeah.
And I went into the audition and I said,
Well, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
Why am I here?
and they were sitting there. Is that Richard Nixon, really? So it was very interesting. So I did get the role. And the craziest thing was, of course, it was a Cheech and Chong film. Mm-hmm. And they decided at the very, 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 very end of editing that they were going to change the ending of the movie.
Oh,
so it ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh no!
And this
yes,
is the,
I've
the
had that
nature
happen
of the
too.
show business.
Yeah,
right. It is.
So
although Cheech and Chong are also known for all the pot they've spent.
Yeah.
So you know what? Anything goes with that, right?
So I
but
just
what
said,
a wonderful story. And,
oh my God!
And you know what? Talk about going the extra mile. You've just proven in what you told. You went the extra mile. You went and did the whole thing. You weren't right for the part at all. You were way too young. But you
walked in there and they remembered you. You caught them. You gave them what they wanted.
Yeah.
Now Florida. What part of Florida did you grow up in?
Down in Coral Gables, right?
Oh yeah, Miami.
Sure.
Yeah, Miami. Sure. I went to Broward Community College in Fort Lauderdale for a little bit.
I
was not a Florida girl. My parents moved there from the Bronx. I was like, say what? People like rode horses to school. It was in Davie. They were still riding horses.
So were you
not my cup of tea?
So were you like an only child, or do you have brothers?
No, I had a brother and a sister, and but I was one of those kids.
Were you the youngest, oldest?
I was in the middle.
Okay,
middle child, and so I was the kind of person that theater was my life already. I decided when I was 6 because it hit me when I was at an improvisation class because
at 6 years old.
Yeah, my parents said you got to get him out of the house. Destroying everything. So they sent me to
driving us crazy.
Yeah, of course. So they sent me to a woman who had a stage in her house, and I took improvisation. I took Shakespeare.
Wow,
all these things. Loved it all.
So your entire life, you've been
it's all been
theatrical.
Theater, and it's been film and television. It's been work, but now my whole life is Harold Clurman and Let It Be Art. But also, it's also Ibsen, and then I've also written a feature film called Group Paradise. It's the first movie ever made about the group theater.
Oh,
wonderful!
Very cool.
I have a director, a Hollywood director, reading it right now. And
fingers crossed for you. Hollywood director reading it right now. We're going to knock on wood.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So we have all of these pots boiling.
Yes,
and that's the most.
That's what it's about, or as I call it, spaghetti being thrown against the wall. Pots are boiling, the spaghetti's flinging. Something's got to stick.
Exactly. But now, you can find out more about Ronald's show at letitbeart.com. It's at the bottom of the screen here. So be sure to go to letitbeart.com to find out everything about the wonderful Ronald Rand.
And I want to say again, May 6th from 7 to 8, the book event Solo Transformation on stage at the Lamb Club, which is 3 West 51st Street. Again, that's May 6th. That's coming up fast and furious.
And tell everybody about your book.
Well, I mean, Solo Transformation on stage is an opportunity to explore everything about yourself, but also it's an opportunity to explore the American theater. And I have 20 interviews in there as well of extraordinary performers who've done solo shows like Christopher Plummer, Olympia Dukakis,
all the great
Margot Gomez, Eve Ensler, who's now known as V. But I mean, extraordinary people talking about what we do and why we love life. And it's so important to take an opportunity to look at yourself and say, how can I share all of my light with the world? And that's what I've dedicated my life to do.
I love it. I love
now,
it.
how can people find your book?
You can find it at Amazon, of course, at Sunbury Press. I also wrote another book called Create, with 130 interviews of some of the most extraordinary people on the planet, actors, directors, musicians, composers, mime artists. And I also wrote a book called Acting Teachers of America.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's great fun.
So on those interview books, you
Yeah.
did all the interviews. On
I did all the interviews
Nice.
because I'm also the founder and publisher of the Soul of the American Actor
Mhm.
newspaper,
which is the
Right.
newspaper.
which is at
yeah.
soulamericanactor.com.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I've been doing that 26 years, and so
Wow.
I've conducted probably close to 2,000 interviews.
Amazing.
Uh-huh.
How often does the newspaper come out?
Well, it used to come out in print form. It was a quarterly newspaper. Now
Mhm.
it's once a year,
Online.
and online and in paper.
Oh,
You're
nice.
still
too.
good for
I
you.
still do it.
I
in
like the
paper.
smell of the paper. I like to be
I
able
do
to
too.
touch it and
Exactly.
feel it.
Very, very important. But online, it's about 75 pages long. And so it's great
Mhm.
because you meet a lot of incredible people. And so it's very important to see, and also international artists as well
Mm.
that
Right.
I have there
Nice.
too.
No, I mean, that's really important. Again,
Very
once
important.
again, you're bridging that gap
Yes.
internationally
Uh-huh.
all over the world. We've got some comments on you too.
Oh,
Let me
my
see.
God.
You
I
can
can't
tell I put
hardly
my,
read.
all right,
This is
Princess
the-
Wow.
Oh, Princess Wow.
Hello,
That's
Wendy.
Mindy.
Hi, Ronald, Tim, and Wendy. Nice to
Hi.
see you. Sue's GX Design. Sue's is a wonderful designer. Great show. Thanks. Princess Wow is loving this. Sue says it so often. Princess Wow endorses your book. Great book. Great show. And she's reading the book right now.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
Sue's, of course, sends love.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
Princess Wow was like, oh my God, you have to meet this guy. And
Oh,
I
wow.
am bombarded with people. So everything gets, you see, I write with a Sharpie.
Yes.
And that's how I don't lose track of things. If I start typing it into the computer or whatever,
Mhm.
I don't know what happens to it.
I
But
forget where you put it.
but I had a big star next to you.
Thank you.
Because
So
I mean,
kind of you.
because I wrote, and it had come from Mindy, and she's
Oh.
like, "Oh my God, you have to have this guy." And then when we
Oh.
got in touch, you were on the way to Greece, and then I wrote, "Must get him when he gets back." For I'd
Oh,
write
thank
little
you.
notes on people.
Oh my goodness.
So we got you. You're
Oh,
here. We
So
got you.
glad
Oh,
that
thank
you
you.
got
It was
back
so-
safely
yeah.
from Greece. and,
Appreciate it
uh-huh.
so much.
So
Yeah.
where are you going next? What do you
Well,
have planned?
now that I've been invited to Athens to go back again
Yes.
to Greece in October, but
Nice.
now I'm going to be. Looks like I'm in discussion with a theater in North Carolina,
Oh, great.
also in Louisiana. So
Uh-huh.
and now I've been invited to 10 other countries. So
Wow.
now I have to figure out how
Scheduling
to
and
exactly all
yeah.
those things. This is what happens, So it's a great blessing.
Yeah,
And
that's-
if we
that's
want to
the
come to
human
the
side.
book event May 6th,
Yes. You should email me
Okay.
and let me know at Mr. Ronald Rand at
Yes.
gmail.com.
I do have your email, and now everybody watching does.
There you go. You got it. It's okay.
Hello,
You
you
can
can
always
just
write me.
Check
Yes,
him out. He's
exactly.
accessible.
Of course.
right.
It's very important.
Yeah, so that is
Yes.
May 6th. I
May
don't
6th.
want to miss that.
Yes, and it's important to make reservations because
Yeah,
the
of
Lambs Club,
course.
it's on the 5th floor.
It's
On the 5th floor, and so far I have guests that include Stephen Lang and Nicole Ansari
Oh,
and Dr. Katia Sabrami, who I actually told when I was over there, I'm going to have this book event, and wouldn't it be marvelous if you decided to come? And she said, "You have a book event in New York? Okay,
there.
I'm there. I'm calling right now." And so, lo and behold, she's coming all the
love
way
that.
from
I
Greece
love
to
I
it.
love
join
Oh,
me.
it.
my
To-
goodness.
I
how
know.
great is that?
It's
you
so
know?
amazing. She was in charge of the dance at the university, and she was a mover and shaker. She
Oh.
made so much happen. And on top of it, I ended up directing a production in Greek with the students there. It was very
That's
successful.
interesting.
So that was fun too. And it was just so amazing to have this experience because that's what it's about.
Mhm.
It's really going someplace and being able to share. So I ended up doing so many classes and workshops, one down at the Theater School of Patras, down at the Lithography and Theater, many on the campus, but that's why I was there.
Ronald,
Right,
you get so much
absolutely.
joy.
Oh, I do.
Your joy
Yeah.
is infectious. We can feel it right here.
Well, thank you.
And I'm
It's
sure
so-
everybody
And we
watching
are-
could feel
we're
it. Yeah.
so grateful that you took some time to share your life and your
Absolutely,
life experiences
yeah.
with us. We're so grateful for that.
Well, I'm
This has just been
grateful to be with
fascinating.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we're glad that you coordinated what you wore with him and I.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
We don't have a wardrobe mistress on this show, okay?
It was the universe.
It is the universe that coordinates our outfits, and we're
That's
all in
beautiful.
various shades of spring blues today.
Exactly. This shirt comes from Malaysia, and this
Oh,
scarf
nice.
comes from India.
Oh,
I love it.
wow.
Crisscross
Gorgeous.
India
Love
5
that.
times already.
Wow.
I love
To
it.
about
Yeah.
a dozen universities and
Wow.
theaters.
Uh-huh.
It's such a gorgeous country. I highly recommend it.
And have
Beautiful.
one. I mean, how do you publicize your shows so that you can sell it internationally?
Well-
What is your process for marketing?
Well, what you do, of course, is you can certainly go online and look up international theater festivals and
Mhm.
find out what's happening around the world, because that's the quickest way.
It's very time consuming, though. You have to
Well,
pitch the whole thing.
I never think of it as that way. I
Right.
think of it as part of the joy of what I do.
Of sharing.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, because it's the only way to reach out to people. And like getting this particular stint here with the University of Patras, of course, I had to contact the Fulbright program, and I've already had 3 Fulbrights. which
No,
was
I know. I
more
saw.
than
It's
amazing.
amazing. I saw
and
that.
I
It was
never
so
thought I would
impressive.
get another one, but I explained to them how important and necessary it was to be able to reach out to them, and they were really, really incredibly happy that I was able to collaborate because it was just what they were looking for.
It's what they do.
Yeah.
And you have a track record already.
Well, yes, it's important
Yes,
about
absolutely.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity to really talk about what's meaningful in life. And that's what I use the workshops for, to open ourselves up, to also share and also look at ourselves and say, can I become a better human being today? What can I do? What can I learn? How curious I am
Right.
to learn about the world. And that's what I teach in my workshops.
Well, I think that we've all become better people on,
Just
just from today's show.
It's interesting to
sharing
me
everything.
that
Thank
no one has offered you like a what do you call it, a professor emeritus or no? What do you know when they bring out like a visit or they bestow the title of professor? No, because you have all the stuff and this is what you're doing.
Well,
Is
thank
this
you.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a visiting guest
Emeritus.
professor at
visiting guest? Yeah,
I've been to 40, almost 40 to 50 universities
'em-
all over the
Wow.
world, and then I've been
Make 'em a
an
professor
adjunct
already.
professor at
You-
3
you
have,
universities
yeah.
Okay.
across America, at Pace University, at Northern Illinois University, and down at the
what you're
University.
bringing to students is
Oh,
so
thank you.
amazing.
Yeah,
Well, you're
absolutely.
so kind. Well, it's important, but they're bringing so much to me
Absolutely.
too. It's a give and take. It's
Right.
all about sharing.
Yeah, it
And
is.
I learned so
And I was just going to say, I bet you learn a lot
Yeah.
I did.
at the
Yes.
same time. Yeah.
I did. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was so beautiful. Yeah, because that's what it's about. And it's also, when you're on stage also, the beautiful thing is that the gift is the electricity, the magic.
Oh,
I
yes.
agree. Yeah,
Live
Oh,
performance
yes.
happening in the moment. And that's why theater is irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
You know,
we're right there.
Absolutely.
We are right there with you.
Uh-huh.
you know?
I love theatrical experience.
Yes. And then, of course, the most amazing thing is that, of course, at the end of the curtain call, the lights come up and you see your audience. And you're able
Yes.
to, and then I always
That's
sit
the
down
payoff.
and talk
But
with them.
that's the
Uh-huh.
payoff are those faces,
Yes.
Because you
And
know
the
they're there,
And it's
right?
so much fun. And then one of the people in the audience at the Lithographian Theater in Athens said to me, because she said, "Well, Stella Adler, did she really talk like that?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you a funny story." Stella would tell us in class. She said she went down to Berghoff Goodman, and she was looking at the gloves and everything, and she said, "What is the price of that one? And what does that one cost? And how much is that?" And so the person helping her finally said, "Miss Adler, are you British?" And she said, "No, darling, I'm just affected."
Another incredible story. That's great, right?
Oh my God!
Oh my God! On that note, my God,
Well,
thank you. You're the
Oh,
best.
oh,
Ronald
such a
Rand.
pleasure.
Ronald Rand.
Ronald
Thank
Rand.
you so much.
Thank
Go
you.
to letitbeart.com.
To find out more.
Thank you. It's
Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye. Thank you so much.